All right, I just thought I would talk a little bit about the massacre in Nova Scotia last weekend. It is the worst mass shooting in Canadian history. And to say it's the worst, if one person gets killed, it's bad. But 22 people, I believe, were killed in this incident. And there's a few questions that I have that I hope will come out in the investigation. And I'll run through a little bit of the timeline, and then maybe some questions will pop out as well. So at about around shortly before 10 o'clock p.m. on April 18th, Wortman and his common-law girlfriend got into an argument, and they went into their house, and according to her, he assaulted her and bound her up. And after a while, she escaped. That's one report. Another report was she had fled after he assaulted her into the woods, and then he torched the house. He set it on fire, went back to the bush party, and killed 13 others in that area. So at about 10:26 a.m., the police arrived on scene, discovered 7 bodies that were shot, and then another 5 people, I believe, were burned. And they noticed that there's probably 3 of the people were trying to help the people that were shot, and they ended up dying because of the fire. So that's a little bit confusing to me, but again, I'm not there. I don't know exactly what happened. So this is at 10:26 a.m. And then one of the people that were shot and wounded, one of the victims, had said that Wortman had went into one area on a road that was a dead end. So the police officers assumed that the person is either on foot, or the person is at a dead end, or maybe they committed suicide. I'm not sure how they got to that conclusion. When you arrive on the scene, I would assume the first thing, I'm not a police officer, the first thing I would do is I would call it in. I would say, I have X amount of people that have been shot. They had even said that this is bad. This is very bad down here. That's a quote. So I would demand that a report, an alert be sent out, a bolo alert, which is be on the lookout for an active shooter. So that should have been done right away. Boom. And then what they did was they cordoned off a section of about a 2-kilometer radius, 1.4 miles. And I think, based on any of the movies I've watched, U.S. Marshals, The Fugitive, all that kind of stuff, you calculate the time of the incident, and then you figure out what their mode of transportation is. If it's a vehicle, how far can they get in 30 minutes or 40 minutes or even an hour in a vehicle? And especially if you know they went down a back road, which is at a dead end, the only way to get out, because you're going to assume that they're going to try and get out, is through some of the fields. So you know they're going to try and drive. So I would think you would block a larger radius and get helicopters up there looking for somebody, a vehicle that's moving. And if there's no headlights on, you just keep searching for any type of movement with a vehicle, and then you bring the dogs out based on how far you think the person could walk or run. And you get the dogs out there looking around. But the thing that was disturbing was they knew the person's name. They didn't put out an alert, bolo alert, like they would, very similar to an Amber Alert. As soon as a child gets kidnapped or is reported missing, they issue an Amber Alert on the radio. They didn't do that. They should have notified the public saying, here, this is what's happening. And in fact, one of the victims said, we think that the person is in a replica police car. That's bizarre in its own right. So the police had some confusion during the night. They weren't sure if the person was apprehended. and they weren't sure if he was still at large. So then by the time 5:30, 6:30 in the morning rolls around, Wortman actually killed a few other people, and he is driving in another direction. So about, I want to say between 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock in the morning, they finally decided to send out a tweet on Twitter. Of all platforms to use, I would not send out a tweet on Twitter regarding a mass shooting, a shooter on the alert, a shooter on the lookout. I would not do it that way. I would approach the radio stations and I would say, get this out to all the officers. This guy is in question. Whether or not you know it's him, it's in question. They said it was Wortman. So now you have a picture of him. Then in the morning, his girlfriend gets out of the woods and reports to the police and says, my common law boyfriend has a replica police car, he has a replica uniform, and he has several guns. We don't know which types yet, but he has several guns. Right away, they should be on a huge provincial-wide manhunt, and all of Nova Scotia should know what's going on, not just on Twitter. It's crazy. That doesn't make sense to me whatsoever. I've never heard of that you make an announcement on YouTube or on Twitter first before you make a huge broadcast. You got news networks, you have the radio stations, the local radio stations, all that kind of stuff. You got word of mouth. People needed to know what was going on. So I think there was a few things that were messed up. And then there was also an incident where a cop was shot and wounded. And I forget the gentleman's name, but his partner, Stevenson, was on her way to meet him at a certain location. He got shot at that location and then left for the hospital to go get repaired. And the shooter continued onward, smashed into her vehicle head on, shot into her vehicle, killed her, took her gun, and then took off and continued to kill other people. Why did that happen? I sure hope that the gentleman that got shot, the police officer that got shot, let his partner know that, hey, he is heading directly towards you. Turn around, get out of there, protect yourself, whatever it is, until backup comes up. I don't know. It just seems like there were so many moving parts that, one, the public wasn't notified quickly enough. Because if there's a shooter in my area, I would like to know right away. So that a lot of stuff doesn't make any sense. And they were worried that maybe there was a person impersonating a police officer, so they're a little bit confused how to approach it because it could look like one of their own. So I understand that. But here's the big thing. A few days later, Prime Minister Trudeau puts a ban on all assault rifles and handguns, semi-automatic handguns, all that kind of stuff, and over 1,500 types, because he wanted this stopped. Well, I'm thinking it could have been stopped a lot earlier. I'm not really sure why the ban took place, because this guy did not have a license. He got the guns that he used allegedly from the United States and obtained it illegally. So banning assault rifles in Canada from people that are legally purchasing them does not help the situation at all. Nothing. That situation did not help this one bit. Not if you're getting weapons and smuggling them into Canada. I think there's a whole nother issue going on. That did not solve the problem. I think if you want to solve the problem, you get the alert out as quick as possible. You let the public know that something is going on right away. You don't wait till the next day. You don't wait 12 hours before you notify the public. You don't wait and publicize it on Twitter. So there's a few questions that need to be answering. And if you have any things to comment regarding this incident, feel free to comment below. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you think I'm off track. But yeah, so there you go. So that's kind of my rant for today. But I think about the families, and I know they're going to want to have questions as well. They're going to want to have their questions answered. So thanks for watching.